also really recommend you get a copy of this program. There is a really good introductory piece in the program that includes things like some of the terminology that we use when we're talking about the issues of migrants versus refugees, asylum seekers, smuggling versus human trafficking. There are some really key distinctions, and apologies if I misuse any. There's also a really fantastic article about the long search for sanctuary and some staggering statistics that are shared in this piece that I'm just going to pick out some of them. And these date from 2019, that in 2019, there are 272 million migrants globally, 51 more than 9 years earlier in 2010. Many of the migrants will stay for up to 10 years to pay for the crossings, like some of the ones you've seen in the play tonight. And that will cost them anything from $2,000 to $10,000. The scale of the migrant situation is unprecedented. We've got over 82 million forcibly displaced people, people who have been forcibly displaced from their homes, and that is the highest on record since the end of the Second World War, according to the United Nations. 26 million refugees are sorry, I can't even read my own writing. But also, unlike what you might think by listening to the government here in the UK, the situation in Europe, it's just a fraction of what is actually happening globally. Europe represents only 8% of the world's refugees are in Europe. So perhaps we are inflating the issue, but I'm sure we'll get to that. Let me start then, by the way, for all of you on the panel, if there's anything, you know the piece, the subject matter a lot better than I do, and the audience. So if there is anything that we're missing, or you think we're missing something really key, just steer us in the right direction. But let me then, having thrown all those stats out at you, let's talk about creativity. And I'm going to start with Marc, who is the reason that we're all here tonight. Marc, how did you come to write this piece? What inspired you?
Many things, really. In fact, at the beginning, I was writing. I've been ordered a playwright about vagrancy. Okay, and I tried to write some line on that type of vagrancy, which is the people who are leaving home for a very far country. Okay, but the director wasn't interested in that, so I left it. And 5 years later, or 6 years later, I take the two first pages of the story, and I continued that. Okay, but before or at the same time, I read many things to know really what exactly happened to those men and women who choose them. Okay, so I read many books of journalists. I read some reporting things of migrant. There is a huge organization called migrant, which is very, very important. It's they analyze the things, the figures, or everything in Europe, and I discovered many things I didn't know. Very important things about we never speak about that, and especially that this problem is above all a market. Okay, it is a market, and I discovered this. It is a real market of billions and billions of dollars. Okay, which is military controlled, and every man, every boat that moves is known. Okay, it's an economic thing, really, and this economy is based on one thing, is that some people cannot move where they want to go. Okay, this interdiction is the main thing. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
My English not very good.
Much better than my French.
Yeah, you understand?
Yeah.
This fact is very basic. If you don't understand that, you understand nothing. Okay. So it is the one thing. It's a market.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I wrote, but everything in the text is a produce of imagination. Okay. So I have to make a balance between what I feel, what I felt deeply in my heart, and the information I had, and I want to mix that whole together, to be right, to be. I want to write for people. You know,
Mm-hmm.
for means in the name of. I try to do that, but it is important. You cannot write on that subject just for you, or to make people cry, or no. It's more than that. It's humanity.
Yeah. Okay, I want to come back to the form of the piece in a moment, but let's just again deal with the research that you spoke about. I'm going to bring in Coline here. Coline, first of all, tell us, what is Care for Calais and what is your involvement with the organization?
Sure. Care for Calais is a charity that started in Calais, in north of France, and that today exists all over the UK and still in Calais, northern France. And it's a charity that supports people seeking asylum once they've arrived in the UK, and then simultaneously it supports people who are stuck in Calais. So we're at the beginning, I guess, of the beginning part of the journey in Calais, and then at the arrival in the UK.
Okay.
And I'm just a volunteer, and I have some friends here actually. We do a variety of things. Most of it, I want to say, is guidance to meander really the asylum system in the UK, which is by far not clear, and everything is done to make people's lives complicated and difficult and unclear and unsure, especially. So yeah, I won't go any further, but in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Okay, very good. And I believe tonight was the first time that you've seen the play.
Yeah.
What is your initial response to it? And
Pretty
also,
much
I suppose following on from what Marc said about his, the staggering discoveries that he's made about.
Yeah, I'm not
around.
surprised. I mean, the first thing I want to say is congratulations to the three of you, and I'm super, super impressed by you two. I was just saying, I can't believe in an hour and a half, or I don't know how long it was, in an hour, you're able to emit, I think, so much emotion and plus not being panicked in this environment with us all looking at you. Bravo, because I would be shaking. I'm red already now. If I was on stage, I'd be purple and shaking. So I'm super, super impressed, and congratulations to you as well. And there's two things I wanted to raise following what you said. The first one is about raising awareness. And I think it's key. I think it's key that this topic steps out of this room, that this topic steps out of the charities, the few of us who actually care, the few of us who actually talk about it. It's key that it gets out. It's key that we change the language that's out there. We need to change that language. We need to change the mindset. It's all being manipulated. We're all being manipulated. And what you're doing is participating in changing that. And I think that's key. And then there's a second point, and please press stop when I need to stop talking. A second point that you mentioned, which is regarding safe passage or safe routes in journeys, and it's a key point. And it's a key point that Care for Calais and West London Welcome, my friends over there, also pledge for, because it definitely puts people into these dangerous situations. And nobody in their right mind, if they had another way to get here or to get to Europe, would ever take such a route, ever. You can give examples of loads of situations in the UK or elsewhere in Europe where people, because they were given safe routes, didn't have to get on these boats. I'll just say, Ukraine recently, right? People from Ukraine were given safe opportunities, safe ways to get here. Therefore, didn't have to necessarily get through these routes, which doesn't diminish what they went through whatsoever, but it's a key difference. In the UK, same thing. People from Hong Kong were given safe routes to get here. And it's a key difference. It's what changes everything.
Yes.
That was a bit of a long answer.
No, that's good, that's good. Okay. So let me turn to the actors then. So, did you know much about these matters before you took on this play? And was it a motivation for you? Did you do additional research? How did you approach it? Wisdom.
Yes, I didn't know of the subject matter. We spent countless hours, weeks researching, dissecting the play, because as you know, the play, it requires you to pay a lot of attention. There's so much in the play, and we spent a lot of days going through it, trying to connect the strands, the characters, the journeys, those little things needed for those transport, and how they all kind of link together. So we spent a lot of time doing a lot of research in the topic, and just for me as an individual coming to the stage and trying to show the story, there's a mantra, I think a mantra I tell myself before I come on stage, which is, I am this individual that wants to connect with you and let you know. That is why I'm telling you this story. It's not like I'm trying to change you, I'm just trying to connect. And I think that has been something that's really worked for me.
Yes, and very powerfully, as Coline mentioned, in this small
works.
space. Yes,
It works.
the writer
It
thinks
works
it
so
works.
well.
And so well, I also wanted to get your view on that. How much did you know before, and have you been motivated to learn more?
Well, I mean, for me, I had the only thing I had to draw on in the beginning was personal stories that I might have heard from like my parents or like grandparents and stuff like that. But in a very different context. Like I come from my mum's first generation, I think this is what it is. So she was a migrant herself, and I've heard stories about everything that she had to do to get over here, how hard it was when she did get here. And even though it's a different sort of story, I kind of had that to sort of fall back on. And I think all credits to you as a writer, because I think the way it's written is very visual. And I kind of work in a way of like, I look at the text and I try to bring it to life instantly in front of my face, like within the words. And I think the writer does a great job at making that happen so easily, because as soon as I saw it, it just exploded off the page, like in terms of like the poetry and the sounds and the scene. You can hear it, you can smell it, you can feel it just by reading it, you know. So I think that's what works really well for me. That's what got me to understand it a bit better. It got me to sort of put myself in that situation, especially having the task of playing these characters. You know, it was kind of like having to do justice to them and not trying to play a caricature or trying to be like, oh, I'm going to just pretend to be this person who's stranded on this island. So I have to become this, I have to breathe this person. And kind of not just play the sadness of them, but also play the part of them that wants to be happy, because they're trying to get out of that situation. So yeah, that's kind of how.
And in some ways, you have a very different challenge to Wisdom, because he's, as the narrator, got the bulk of the words to say, but you are you've got dialogue as well, but you're expressing a lot just in how you respond.
Yeah.
And how did you work on that together?
I think it was just kind of differentiating, first of all, the different characters.
Do you have an idea of how many different characters? It's just like a kaleidoscopic view of humanity.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just kind of like the way I kind of went about it was going through all the dialogue. What's the wants and needs of these characters? What's their moral? Where do they stand morally? Or why are they doing this? Do you know what I mean? Is it for morally right reasons or morally wrong reasons? How far would they go to get what they want? And within that, I then found the different characters. And then when I'm not playing the characters, it's sort of like, who am I? I'm this person who's trying to know my story. He's telling the story, but I'm trying to get more and more out of him, which is where you get, like, you know, the hitting of the thing to be like, carry on, carry on, carry on, because we need the story to be told. And yeah, I think once I found the different wants and needs of the characters, then came the different breadth of the characters, the different rhythms of the characters. Some might be, I need this now, I need it now, or like, I don't even want you to cross. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I think that's where it sort of came within just finding the different wants and needs of the characters.
And the writer looks like he really wants to get involved in this part of the
In
thing.
fact, what impresses me is the fact that both you are, I think, deeply connected. It's what I saw together, and you know things that are in the text, maybe more than I can. So I think you understand things I don't. It's my impression. I was
Wow.
really, it's great, really, because you play that so quickly, I should say.
That's a fantastic
Because-
compliment.
Thank you so much.
So quickly and was powerful, which is very powerful.
I want to come back to something Ola touches on, which is I really hope that this script is going to be published in English in the UK, because it is gorgeous. It is such a pleasure to read. It is like a long poem, and just beautiful.
Thank you. Thank
really
you very
beautiful,
much.
and to see it performed as well. It excels in these two different forms.
It is difficult for the director too, I imagine, because the play, in a way, is not finished. I mean, it is, but I leave a thing to the director. I give him or her the freedom to make what he wants, what she wants to do with the text, you know. In that way, the text is voluntarily not finished, because the narrative is mixed with dialogues, and so who speaks? That's the question.
Do you specify that it should be two actors?
No.
So again, that's a directorial.
And more than that, when we had a Zoom, I told her, believe me, don't make it with two. Really? It is a trap. It is a trap. If you take two.
So you envisaged
but-
it as a monologue. You envisaged it as a monologue.
She really.
Yeah. So then let's just have a shout out to brilliant directors, Alice Hamilton. Well done, Alice. And she's got a fantastic creative team. I was really especially taken with the lighting by Tony Platt, the sound by Daniel Balfour, set and costume by Sarah Beeston. So well done, Clarisse. Clarisse Makundul is the producer who put together. Okay. So audience, how are you feeling? You feeling warmed up? Who's got a question for me? Come on, there we go. Question.
So I've worked with your friend Katie from Care for Clay. I love her dearly. We talked before we came to the play about not wanting to be forced to feel something and wanting to be allowed to discover this for our own selves. And I noticed throughout that the word that kept coming to me is that it lacks the gratuitous drama and feels like you intentionally gave characters naivete or innocence and let us kind of come into them. I just wonder, was that intentional, that you balanced, that you really had to balance those two, like because I feel manipulated often by being told what to feel and given the drama in the media, And so I loved experiencing this as art because it gave me a different way to feel the reality and the humanity of it. So I just wondered if you had a response to that very long.
That's very beautiful. So should we start with Marc and the writer?
I don't understand what.
Yeah.
do you, well, maybe if I simplify it, did you want the audience, when you were writing, did you want the audience to feel a certain way or to take something specific away from this experience?
If I comment all that, if I direct all the
Well, when you wrote it, did you want the audience to feel a specific way? Because this lady is saying she thinks that you have given us as audience members real freedom.
She feels really
that she has not
in
been
the story.
manipulated.
In the boat.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
But you understand. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, as you noticed, the story is not built on a time like that, but a time like that, like a wave,
Yeah.
like wave coming and
Yes, the tide.
like the tide, yes. So, in fact, it is made to take the audience with and to like that. It's cyclic. I don't know, but it's not really something I wanted to do. But the result is there, and every time you read the text, people say, oh, we were involved in the story.
Yeah.
We were with you, and maybe for other reasons. Maybe that in the text there is no the evil and the good, black and white. You understand? It is not so clear. The division between migrant and smugglers. They can be all. There is not on one side the smugglers and on other side the migrant. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It's more complicated. So there is no judgment. There is no. So I think the audience feel free because there is no. You don't culpabilize anyone. It was the thing I wanted to do, yes.
Yes, and you seem to want to respond to that. This is a great compliment, I think, from this audience member.
Yes, thank you. it's yes. A lot of it, I think, started from the scripts. The script was just fascinatingly precise in the sense that me as an audience, you were quickly pulled away from one thing quite abruptly, because it almost looks like there's a story that's pushing, just like the line the hinge beast is pushing, but then very quickly it just takes you away from it and takes you out into something else. And I think for a performer, I wasn't looking for too much emotions when it comes to the performance. I was looking for sincerity, and if I tried to put emotions into something that didn't require those emotions, it felt forced. It didn't feel organic because it needed sincerity and explanation rather than me pushing those things into your face. If that makes sense.
Do you want to add to that, William?
Yeah. I think first of all, thank you for that comment. I think it's an amazing sort of thing to pick up on. I think for me, with playing characters, I just tried to get the humanness out of them. One of the biggest things one of my acting teachers ever said to me was that humans don't emote. We don't constantly show emotions. In fact, we try to do the opposite of what we're actually feeling most of the time. So it's like if you're in this situation and this is your situation and you're stranded on this island, rather than coming to the audience and being like, feel sorry for me, I'd rather show you how I'm dealing with it, and then you'll be able to interpret in the way of, oh, you're dealing with it like that because you're feeling this sort of way. There is no one emotion, and not everybody experiences emotion in the same way. You know, the way I experience anger and sadness will be very different from the way you experience anger or sadness. So if I'm trying to show you my version of anger or sadness, you'll be like, what's going on? Like, I don't know what that means. So yeah, I think it was just trying to get the humanness out of it, trying to show the joy in it, because I think that's more watchable, and it was written in a way to make it more watchable. So yeah, that's...
Nice one. Okay, follow-up question. I'm just going to look on this side of the room. Any on this side of the room? No? Okay, over there, and then we'll come back here.
Okay, so the opening sequence where you guys just have such desperation set up, I think, at least for me as an audience member, this sense of like, please let him on, like please. And then as the play continues and you talk about, you know, why you can't do that, I guess my question is, I don't understand why people have to get to that point of desperation that they would cross when, if they have this much money, could they not do something else? Like, what's the narrative that they're being taught in these communities that they would be able, that this is the answer?
I think that, well, if we're specifically talking about influxes into the UK, I think we can look pretty squarely at our government here, but I'm going to toss that one to Coline to answer.
I think the answer is there's everybody has their journey, everybody has their reasons, but what I always say is, if you are considering such a journey, bearing in mind that now I think before taking this journey, oftentimes people know what could happen, what may happen, they've heard stories. I think wherever you're coming from or whatever has happened to you is so bad that you're just left with no choice. And like we said earlier, sometimes it's not a money thing. And I think it's a matter of choices. And I think people perhaps may end up in these situations because they have no other choices. And they also feel like the only hope for a better situation, a better life, is that choice.
Do we have any idea, Coline, of the percentage of boats that successfully cross from Calais to the UK?
The percentage of votes that what?
Like, how many actually are successful?
And
as
many,
a proportion?
many have not the choice. You must know that. Some are designed by the family. They are, you understand, by the family or the village. You go, and he has no choice.
Yeah.
You go, please save us.
If you go in front
He has a
of us.
mission.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but certainly the young, of course. Please go. They have no choice because they receive all the hope of a group, okay, of groups. They say, you are the best of us to go there, and they make some cotisation. they pay, or everything, everyone pay, okay? It's one way. There are many ways, but some it's like that. You have no choice. But the thing is that they have not the authorization to move. So it is dangerous. It is more than dangerous.
In the back there.
Yeah, hi, this is a question for the writer as well. So I'm interested in theatre as a political act, and it's great that we're having this conversation. I'm starting out as a writer as well, and I'm really interested in these issues.
Don't speak too fast.
Oh, sorry.
please.
I suppose my question is, I'm a writer and I want to write about this kind of issue, but
Yeah.
I'm not from the global majority. I'll never have to go through such a horrible experience.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're French and maybe you're from a similar background as me. So did you ever consider whether you were the right person to tell the story?
Did you what?
So she's saying, forgive me, I'll paraphrase it. So she is saying that, were you ever worried that, given that we presume, are not a migrant yourself, do you ever worry that this should be a story that is yours to tell?
No. If me, I would be a migrant? No.
Yes, but she's saying, given that, do you want to explain?
Yeah, if I understand correctly, is do you feel legitimate to write the story?
What?
Légitime.
Ah.
Légitime.
Okay, if I feel legitimate to just, oh yes, that's a big question.
Yes. Thank you for the
Yes, it's the reason why I read so much books about the thing, okay? Because to know exactly, I went to Senegal, I went to Rwanda, I went to see things, to see the boats, to speak with people in France too. So, but it is really a question, yes. And you know what? Some directors who were given the text to direct, they read it and they say, this text is wonderful, but I don't feel legitimate to give it. One famous director from Canada, Denis Marlowe, if you have ever heard of him, Denis Marlowe said, no, I thought it over and I can't because I'm not European and it's your problem. and I told him, but it's not European because the text is universal. They are not only African.
What about you as performers? Do questions like that enter into your mind in either this piece or other pieces that you do?
I think one of the great things about this piece is that it literally, from what it says in the description, it could be anywhere, any person, anything. And I think the writing leaves space for that. It doesn't tell you where to be. There's about 100 ways we could have put this show on. We just chose to do it in this way. And I think that's what we were finding in the beginning of rehearsal, was that we had so many ideas. It was like, let's do it like this, no, we could do it like this, do it like this, do it like this. And we were clashing because everyone had a different way of how we could tell the story. We made a conscious decision on where to put it. But the way it's written doesn't tell you that you have to be in Africa or in somewhere in Asia. It doesn't tell you have to be anywhere. So in a way, that was kind of a challenge for us because it has such a wide range of what it could be that you have to make a decision on, okay, what do you want to do? What story do you want to tell? What do you want to show? And in the end, we ended up going for, the migration from North Africa to the UK into Europe, because that's like the biggest case of things that we're seeing now. But it definitely leaves the space to go in any direction, and I definitely found that a challenge in the beginning because I was like, no, that's not right. No, we got to do it this way. But yeah, so it's diverse in that sense.
Do you want to add to that, Wisdom?
Yes, one of the things we struggled with the most during rehearsal was exactly that, because we had so many different possibilities in which this play could be put. And very early on, we had a conversation with the director, and just in relation to that, we had to be quite open. She had to be quite open and quite collaborative and humble enough to say, hey, the experiences here I don't know of, because I am not of this origin, I don't know this, I don't have experience with this, so I want to be collaborative enough with you and this person so that we can make this thing a full, whole experience. Yeah. But it took humbling yourself as an artist or as a director in her, I feel like I might be speaking too much for her, but that is how I saw it.
Yeah.
And so for me as an actor, if I am tackling a story I don't have an experience with, for me it's just simply putting myself in the skin and saying, what if?
Yeah, I think that's what it is as well. It's that appreciation of the text or of the story, rather than trying to make it something selfish. So it's kind of like going with your question. It's kind of like, it doesn't really matter if you what I think, it doesn't really matter if you don't come from a certain background or you don't know about a certain thing. I think that's the beauty of theatre, that's the beauty of our world, is that all the things are out there for you to discover, and it's about writing in a way that's not selfish, but like Mark has said about how he writes about serving the story, serving the people, and yeah, I think 100% with this text, it's I think that's what we definitely found, was that it was very open and it wasn't like a caricature, which it can easily be, or like a stereotype, which it can easily be, but it wasn't that.
So what's coming across to me is just approaching the subject with humility and an open heart and an open mind, and that collaborative approach I thought was very powerful.